You ever wake up to the sound of 1,000 bees and realize that's still a gentler way to start your day than dealing with a neighbor named Karen? Let me tell you about the weekend when 500 strangers camped on my land, paid $50 a pop to do yoga, and ended up learning the hard way that you can't steal a man's legacy and expect nature, or karma, to just let it slide. I'm Wes Hoffman, 62. Spent 30 years running into burning buildings, thinking nothing could surprise me after decades as a firefighter. But losing Sharon, my wife of 43 years, changed that. Grief's a funny thing. Makes you see your land, your memories, everything through a whole different lens. After she passed, the world got real quiet except for the steady hum of bees. That's how I ended up a beekeeper on this patch of land my grandfather bought back in '52, out on the edge of Millerville, California. Place used to be pure farmland. Now it's old-timers like me and Silicon Valley transplants with more money than sense. The pension keeps the lights on. My knees aren't what they used to be. Roof fell on me in 18, took out my left side for good. Heavy lifting's over, but the bees don't care about bum knees or busted hearts. I named each hive after old firefighter buddies: Rodriguez, Murphy, Jimmy Kowalski. Out here, those bees became my family. Every sunrise, I'd sit on the porch, drink coffee laced with my own honey, and watch 40,000 little workers do what they're born to do: protect, provide, repeat. Never judged me for talking to myself at 4 a.m. either. Then came Karen Westfield. You ever see one of those fake Mediterranean mansions that look like a Vegas casino on the outside and feel about as authentic? That's Karen and her husband Derek. She rolls up in a white Tesla with blessed plates and 47,000 Instagram followers, preaching about her authentic rural lifestyle. Yoga instructor, self-proclaimed life coach, president of the HOA after 6 months. Basically self-appointed queen of making sure the neighborhood fits her vision. Her husband's at a tech firm, works from home in hiking boots that have never seen dirt. My morning hive checks started getting interrupted by the crunch of her shoes on my gravel. Clipboard in hand, pointing at my bee boxes and garden like she was a government inspector. November rolls around, and I get her first official complaint. Dangerous beehives, threat to children, lowering property values. Remove them or $500 daily fines, starting in 30 days. She even threatened animal control, said my bees were livestock. You gotta laugh. Karen, I pulled kids out of burning houses. I gave CPR to her neighbor's grandmother. Now she thinks I'm a public menace because I raise bees? She'd made her first mistake. Some folks spend their lives running from fires. Some run toward them. I'd spent 30 years protecting people who couldn't protect themselves. And I'd be damned if some Instagram influencer was going to bully me off the land my family built. So, she kicks off her campaign of community standards. Calls a neighborhood meeting at the community center. 30 neighbors plus some animal control officer. Karen's got a PowerPoint about killer bees and public danger, photos straight off Google. I let her talk. Then I stand up with a folder thick enough to choke a horse. State certification, beekeeping permits, neighbor testimonials, diagrams of hive placement. I even had a letter from old Eddie Kowalski. My bees doubled his tomato crop last year. Rodriguez, the officer, not my hive, looks over everything, tells Karen she's out of line. In fact, filing false reports about killer bees is a misdemeanor. You could see the steam coming out of her ears. She storms off, perfume trailing like a warning shot. Small towns move faster than a Tesla when it comes to gossip. Within days, Pete Kowalski, Eddie's son and my lawyer, fills me in on the limits of HOA power. Turns out, my land's older than the HOA itself. Karen can file all the complaints she wants, but she's got zero authority over me or my bees. She can bark, but she can't bite. But Karen doesn't stop. She cranks up the drama, launches a community wellness group online, starts inviting folk for yoga walks across my pasture. Suddenly, I got packs of Lululemon-clad warriors strutting across my property, claiming historical access rights. Derek's out there with surveying gear, poking around as if he's planning a lunar landing. I put up no trespassing signs and install trail cameras. But it gets better. Pete helps me dig through old county records. My deeds clear as day. No easements, no access, no nothing. These folks are trespassing, plain and simple. And then, twist number one, Derek Surveying picks up something they didn't expect. Their septic system's been dumping straight onto my land for 18 months. Now we're talking EPA violations, county fines, criminal negligence. When I bring it up, Derek stammers, Karen goes nuclear on next door, paints me as the neighborhood lunatic. But see, every lie, every social post, every step across my pasture is more evidence for my case. I start documenting everything, photos, dates, times. Karen's digging her own grave, and she doesn't even know it. 3 weeks later, she goes all in, announces a community wellness retreat weekend, a 2-day festival, 500 RSVPs, $50 a head, food trucks, porta potties, professional sound system, the works. But here's the catch. She drops the event pin smack in the middle of my back pasture. This isn't yoga anymore. This is a hostile land grab. Sheriff's Deputy Martinez, old family friend, shows up with code enforcement. Karen waves some fake historical access documents. I got the real deeds, the surveys, everything. Martinez isn't buying Karen's story. Meanwhile, the code officer's snapping photos of her commercial setup. Karen's in violation of a half-dozen county codes, plus fraud for those documents. The wheels start coming off her little operation. Then Eddie and Pete uncover the real twist. Derek's company, Streamline Solutions, is gunning for my land to build a $20 million server farm. They've run the same scheme in 2 other towns. Target old residents, harass them out, buy low, develop big, make millions. Suddenly, this isn't just an annoying HOA president. This is organized fraud. So I get to work. If Karen wants a natural wellness experience, who am I to deny her? I'm modifying my hive stand with motion sensors. When 500 people start bouncing around, every bee on my property is going to know it. Legally, I'm in the clear. The bees are mine on my land. If they get disturbed by trespassers, well, that's a lesson in consequences. Saturday morning, my pasture looks like Coachella for people who've never slept outdoors. Karen's strutting around with a bullhorn. Derek's trying to accidentally move the property line with his survey gear. At 8:30 a.m., Karen orders the sound tech to crank up the bass. That's when the hives go live. Within seconds, swarms pour out like thunderclouds. Yoga mats go flying, Teslas peel out, people running for their lives, screaming, swatting, covered in bees. Martinez shows up just in time to see Karen on the mic, accusing me of releasing killer bees. She tries to play the victim, but the sheriff's not having it. Derek gets caught with the surveying gear. The news van catches everything on camera. That's when I hand Jessica Martinez, the reporter, my evidence folder. Emails, business plans, records of Karen and Derek scams in other towns. The whole fraud empire exposed on live TV. Then Inspector Valdez rolls up. Turns out Karen tried to bribe him the day before, and Eddie caught the whole thing on audio. She's looking at felony charges for bribery, document fraud, commercial trespass, you name it. The aftermath? Karen and Derek plead out, lose their business, their money, and their reputation. My community gets real justice. The HOA board resigns, the fake wellness group dissolves, and the real neighbors start showing up with apologies and casseroles. The kids from elementary school come out once a month now to learn about bees. The land that almost got stolen by a couple of scammers ends up as a teaching garden, a haven for pollinators, and a symbol of what happens when a community stands up to bullies. But you want to know the real lesson? You can have all the money in the world, but if you mess with someone who's got nothing left to lose and everything left to protect, you better be ready for the consequences. Sometimes those consequences have wings. So here's my question for you. Where's the line between standing up for what's yours and going too far? Was I right to fight fire with bees? Or does that make me just as crazy as Karen? Drop your own HOA horror story in the comments, and let's see whose justice was the sweetest. Because out here, truth wins, community matters, and honey always tastes better when you've earned it.